Hello, you fuckheads and retards, and welcome to another exciting edition of my show. This show is called News of the Day, and that's when I take stories that are running through the news cycle and try to put a biblical slant on them. So let's get started, shall we? First story. I woke up this morning and I live in Asia, so the times are different. And I turned on Fox News and Orange Donald was on Jesse Waters. And Jesse brought up an interesting question. First of all, I'm not a big fan of Jesse Waters. I think he's a dipshit with nice hair. And I think that's how he got that job. Dipshit, looks nice, kind of shallow, occasionally quick with a joke, but overall, he's kind of a lightweight. But, what the hell? He obviously has some kind of talent. People like to watch him. Not me so much, but other people seem to like him. Anyway, there was an interesting question he brought up, and he said to Orange Donald, and J.D. Vance was there too, and he said, Orange Donald, what are we going to do about this fentanyl? Would you take military action off the table and not go after the cartels since Mexico's our biggest trading partner? And Donald, to his credit, said, no, this has to stop. 300,000 people a year are dying from fentanyl. That's what Donald said. I'm not sure if it's 300,000 people. He tends to be hyperbolic in his speaking. I heard it's closer to 100,000. But what do I know? Maybe it is 300,000. 100,000, 300,000. One thing is for sure. Too many. We're killing more per year in America from these drugs crossing the border than the kids who died in the Vietnam War and the Korean War together. On an annual basis, more Americans are dying than those wars all together. So, and he said, and Donald went on to say, look, this is being manufactured by the Chinese. And I had struck a deal with Xi. Anyone who got caught manufacturing fentanyl would get the death penalty. Xi had agreed to this. And then Biden took it off the table. And I got to say this, it's a war. When you're bringing these drugs across the border and you're killing 100,000 or 300,000, whatever the case might be, whatever number you believe, that's a war. That's a clandestine war against the American people. So kudos to Donald. I think he's absolutely right. If Mexico can't take care of the problem, then maybe it's time to kick some serious ass and stop the bullshit right away. So good job, Donald. That's why I'm voting for you. Even though you're orange, you're still my guy. Second story is also about Orange Donald. The Secret Service now has been saying to Orange Donald, look, if you want to be safe in the future, we suggest that you no longer have outdoor rallies. Keep the rallies indoors. And I think to myself, man, what kind of bullshit is that? You can't set up a perimeter around the Republican candidate and now he can only speak indoors to small crowds. To me, that sounds like another case of interference by the government to stop Orange Donald's momentum. And I would say this, if I were in his shoes, and I'm not in his shoes, I've never had anyone take a shot at me. But, he's 78 years old. He's had a heck of a life. And I hate to say this, but if it were to come to an end tomorrow while he was talking to people in Wisconsin or Minnesota or wherever he is, and suddenly the lights went out because of nefarious action by the government, well, it would be sad, but let me tell you, there's worse ways to go, right? And you get to a certain age, even me, I'm not nearly as old as 78, but I'm a lot closer to 60 than I am 40. I'm closer to 60 than I am 50. And you realize it's not going to last forever. Your body starts breaking down, and you can't sleep through the night without having to get up to pee about 2 or 3 times. It's terrible. you know so I'm I I hope that he has the courage to keep doing his thing, and I think he does. That's what I like about Trump. I think, for all his faults, and man, he has a lot of them, he's basically a courageous guy, and he's got a lot of balls. They'd say in the mafia, right? I like you, kid. You got balls. They always say that in those movies. All right, that's my second story. My third story is Tucker Carlson. I saw his show today. He was interviewing someone, or someone was interviewing him. And he was saying how democracy in America is dead because Kamala Harris now has the nomination in the bag. And there's no voting. And I would say this. I like Tucker Carlson, but I think he's wrong in this case. We have an old man who, from that debate, we all knew, well, anyone with common sense knew when President Biden was being led around by the Easter Bunny and that Juneteenth fiasco. But this debate made it clear. This is an old guy who probably poops in his pants, and he has no business being in the White House. All right. I'd love to see him run because I think it would be nice for Trump. I think, if you can't beat Grandpa Poopy Pants, who can you beat? But he really has no business being there. So the next person up is Kamala. And I don't see this as a huge assault on democracy. I just see it as we got to get Grandpa Poopy Pants out of here. And who do we go to? Well, she's the vice president. And I think that seems to be a logical choice. Right? So no, I think having the government try to kill Donald is a problem for democracy. Accusing him of being a Russian spy is a problem for democracy. Having 51 federal agents sign a phony letter saying that the Hunter's laptop was Russian propaganda is a threat to democracy. Getting rid of the old geezer who poops in his pants and replacing him with the second person in charge, I don't see it, to be honest with you. What do I know? But I certainly don't see it. And let me check the time. I don't like to go past 10 minutes. Okay, I got time for one more story. Speaking of Kamala, she is not being accepted by Black Lives Matter. They do want a convention, an open convention where people can vote and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Fine. I just talked about that, so I'm not going to get into is it right, is it wrong. I just gave you my feelings on that. But here's the point. White liberals, progressives, run the Democratic Party. And they think just because her dad was Jamaican, that suddenly all the black folk are going to just run up to her and say, we welcome you, Kamala. We think you're fantastic. I don't see that happening. I don't think black folk like her. That's just my impression. When she was running back in 2019 to be the Democratic nominee, they completely rejected her. They went with old Joe. So she is a deeply unpopular woman. There's something about her, I've said it before, that just makes people go, ugh, right? And that includes black people. I don't think that she is going to be the savior of the Democratic Party. And I think that she might be replaced by somebody else because people just have a visceral reaction toward her, and it's not a positive reaction. It's very negative. She's a real piece of work, you know. Ugh. Anyway, that's 10 minutes. I don't like to go over 10 minutes. Putting a biblical slant on it. Let's go with the flood. You know, people back, Jesus said, in Noah's day, people were getting married and they were having parties and they were having a great time, and there were millions of them. And suddenly the flood came and wiped them all out. We're very fragile. So I don't think you should spend all night not being able to sleep worrying about politics. What's going to happen is going to happen. Screw it. Anyway, if you like this video, press like. If you want to subscribe, press subscribe. Last time I said I had 65 subscribers. I only have 63. But, you know, it's still not bad. Anyway, God bless you all, and have a wonderful evening, wherever you happen to be. Bye-bye.